Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, April 6th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, let's take a quick look at what happened yesterday in the market. Yesterday, we had what we would call an engulfing day, where we completely engulfed the previous day, and we had value lower. So the engulfing is kind of a no signal. That's kind of a uncertainty. The market isn't sure where it's going to go. It's trying to go higher. It's trying to go lower type of signal. But the value being lower is a little bit bearish to see inside of there, as we had begun to create a trend higher in balance. Instantly getting balance overlapping to lower is a sign there was no trend to the upside, and the stronger trend to the downside remains intact. Okay, so that is bearish to see. We also had a massive spike down at the end of the day yesterday. That is bearish to see as well, and we closed inside the gap, adding to the bearishness. Boy, it's a lot. I hope you like the word bearish. You're going to hear it a lot this morning. So then we had a gap down this morning, or we have a gap down this morning, and we're opening like all the way down on the lower end of that overnight range. So that is also bearish as well. But with this big of a gap down, we do expect some kind of counter auction to the upside when we open this morning. We expect the market to try to fill this gap. And so one potential play is if the market opens, it pushes lower, and then it comes back through the opening price. You can go long at the open, putting your stop just below whatever the low of the day is at that point, and look for that gap fill trade. It is worth noting that gaps that are this large often don't fill on the first day. So we'll probably only get a partial gap fill, maybe like a half gap fill, and then find resistance and continue lower. But there is very high probability that they will at least try to fill that gap because it's so big, and because the overnight inventory is completely net short. There's definitely going to be some overnight traders that need to take profits, and then some new money buyers from the regular trading hours that are trying to fill the gap. If they fail to fill the gap, if they cannot get up to yesterday's low, if prior to getting there they get resistance, or they get resistance at yesterday's low, both of those are the most bearish scenario you can get. On top of a spike down from yesterday, that's even more bearish. So finding resistance, failing to fill the gap, or finding resistance at yesterday's low, extremely bearish for continuation to the downside. Also, a gap and go can just straight up start going. So the market could open and just instantly start to trade lower. That is also a gap and go. Very, very bearish. Okay, but the assumption is some kind of counter auction, and we look for resistance. Obviously, we would expect this node right here, this cumulative node that has been acting as support. If we zoom out a little bit here, we can see this node was resistance when we had the 3-day balance over here, and then it was support from that point on. So we can expect that support to now become resistance as we work our way up there to yesterday's low. So there's a lot of reasons to be bearish here today. But first, we got to wait for that counter auction and see what they get. Bear. I'm a bear. Also, these weak references are considered repaired if we open below them. All right, and the market is open. So let's see how it digests this gap. All right, well, they're instantly filling the gap, instantly getting that counter auction to the upside. So now we're looking for, where does the market find resistance? Anywhere below yesterday's low is bearish. Good morning, Diego, Nor Auto Trader. Mick Stockster in the house. Caffeine is with us. MW, good to see you. Greg H, good morning to you. Boss Man, Bob Smith, Trading Donkey. Scooball, welcome. Hustler Forever. Dean is with us. Sab Export, welcome. MW, yo. Oh, he's saying hi to Donkey. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. All right, well, that's a little bearish. That's a very small counter auction to the upside. So getting some selling here is bearish to see. I still think we need a little bit more of a counter auction. We should be able to get above negative 1,000 on the ticks. But this is bearish, that we are instantly getting resistance. All right, getting below the overnight lows, a little bit bearish. So we're really stacking up those bearish indicators at this point. Continuation of downtrend, spike down, gap and go, below the overnight low, and bearish internals. So the buyers have all the reason in the world to try to recover this market right now. This is about as oversold as a market can be. So if they can't, there is information in that. Jimmy Woo, good morning to you. Laser Eye, welcome. Jay Trader, good morning to you. All right, well, there's no hiding it. This is bearish right out the gate. That is a gap and go. Pushed below the overnight low, came back up, found resistance at the overnight low. That is bearish as well. So next potential support to the downside is around 44.59 with the next major node of volume there on the cumulative. And that would also let us repair the next weak reference in need of repair down at 44.61. TV, good morning. Aviv, Jack, welcome. Amir, Chief, and Ronald, welcome to you guys as well. Every attempt for those overnight traders to take profits on their shorts, and new sellers just keep piling on. nor Auto Trader. I just want to share with you all that yesterday I became the grandfather of a great boy. Congrats, dude. That's great. Grandpa Auto Trader. All right, a lot of buyers, a lot of weak hands buying at this exact level here at 70. Once we break below it, we're likely to get a little pop lower as some of them cover those longs. Otherwise, it's good taper at the low. But oh, if that taper breaks, she's a gonna drop. Designed up. Sit him on your lap and tell him about weak lows, POCs, and single prints. Can you imagine if you could get a little kid obsessed with technical analysis, like instead of video games? All right, there's that little break of the low. So once again, we're looking for a repair of 44.61 and then support just below it at about 44.59.50. But anyway, yeah, can you imagine if like a little kid, you taught them to do like technical analysis instead of like playing video games, and they spent their entire childhood like mastering reading charts? They can make so much money. Okay, so now we're getting some panicking, some liquidation. Anybody who had been convinced of that gap fill is now beginning to change their mind. All right. Well, NQ is pushing right into support now. You got lots of support between where the market currently is and like 14,480. So the NQ could find support anywhere in here, but it is also a gap and go, which is bearish. Okay, once again, sellers piling on. The buyers that are trying to defend this level right now, they're doing a good job. They're getting that nice taper. But if it breaks, same as up here, we'll get another little pop lower. As these are weak hands, trying to buy the falling knife. All right, once again, challenging the low. If it breaks, look for another little pop lower. Boss man, Hulk smash the like button. Yes, please do. Hulk smash the like button or just gently push the thumbs up. Either way would surely be appreciated. The pirate did warn you about the gap and go. Trading Donkey losing the 200-day while the 50-day is below, question mark? Just from your description, it sounds bearish. Oh, yeah. Pushing through the 200 there. Okay, we got bad taper on the low right now. 135 contracts above 300. That is in need of some more two-sided trade. Trading Donkey, I rewatched your yesterday first hour on the Oculus. That's cool, I guess. Wanted to see that crazy reversal again. You did a pretty good job of pointing out the ugly ticks despite the pumping price. Yeah, I pointed it out, but I didn't read it correctly. What I thought it was like, the past few days, we've had a lot of weird things with the internals where they haven't been reliable because it seems like the futures have been doing something different than the underlying shares. So that's what I thought it was. It's so funny. It's like if that had happened 2 weeks ago, I would have been screaming, don't trust this. We're going to get a pullback. But because we've had such a weird connection between internals and the price action just over the last week, it made me distrust that signal. All right, so the question is, was that the low? Did we just find support? I don't think we did. This to me feels like we're just trying to squeeze some of the shorts real quick before we head back down there. I still see this as bearish. I would change my mind if we can get back above the opening price. But until then, I think there's sellers waiting to pile on here. CCT, did you short, Charles? I've had 3 shorts already today. Come on, brother. It's a gap and go. You don't wait around for that. You get in the trade. All right, with the printing of the B period here, we have pulled the value area lower. That is bearish to see. We also created a poor low, so that's in need of repair now. And with the value area pushing up against the low of the day like that, it increases the odds. We need a little more excess to the downside. So I still think this weak reference at 61 is in play. Okay, so there's the repair of the poor low and some new money selling. Okay, so again, we got some support waiting for us right around 59.50, just below us here. Okay, there's the repair of that old weak reference. Looking for support. NQ way oversold here. Oof, NQ starting to break that big node. Man, that's not good. That's bearish. If we break this node right here, the next stop is like this one right here. So that's like 405. And then if that one breaks, we're looking at this one down here for 350, 14,350. So the NQ needs buyers to step in right now. David Glass, thank you for the reminder. I totally forgot FOMC minutes are dropping today. This could be one of those days where we sell off and then the minutes come out and the market reverses. But right now, the momentum is to the downside for sure. Hustler Forever got my 62 target. I always bail early. I'm telling you, I'll give you the magic trick right now. Are you ready? Enter with 2. Take profits with only 1 when you feel that urge to take profits, and let that other one run. Move your stop. So like, let's say you got short at the open today and you went short with 2 contracts right there. You know what I mean? Market pushes down, gets below the overnight low. You think, oh no, it's finding support. I got to get out of my trade. Just take profits on one of them. Keep the other one short, and then just move your stop below break even, and just be disciplined. Say to yourself, I will not take profits on this. I'll either get stopped out, which is fine because there's no loss. I'm below break even, so I'm going to make some money no matter what. So let me just see what happens. See if I can get all the way down there to my target. And the more and more you do it, the more and more comfortable you'll become with it. That partial profits really is like a magic trick to alleviate that feeling of needing to exit a trade, but it keeps you in it if you keep a runner. Scuba, but you risk more with that strategy at the beginning of the trade. Yeah, position size wise. But you could do it like if you would normally take 1 ES trade, you could just take 10 MES trades and then exit 5 contracts. That's not great fees wise, but there are ways to still get the risk reward you're looking for and have a larger position size. Remember that the art of learning to be a trader, it's not about trying to do everything all at once. That's where people get messed up, is when they try to do everything all at once. It's about developing one skill at a time, right? The first skill is like just learning to read the market, understand what it's doing. Then you start learning to enter trades, and you get better and better at figuring out where to put your entry. Like you get better and better at waiting for the market to pull back into support or resistance, right? Then you get better and better at placing your stop, figuring out like where is a place where my stop will protect me if I'm wrong, but I won't just get stopped out over and over again. And so then you're working on that skill and you're getting better and better at that skill. And then you work on position sizing. You know, how do I build a larger position? How do I stay in a trade for longer? How do I cut off my losers faster? How do I, and you just, each one of these skills, you focus on it one at a time. So if you're finding you get stopped out of trades all the time, that's the skill you work on this week. How do I put my stops in a better location? And when you feel like you've conquered that, then it's okay, how do I get in with a bigger position size? How do I hold my trades for longer when they're winners? You know, just one single skill set at a time, you get better and better. So a lot of times people will jump in the chat and say like, oh, I'm having trouble with this. And I'll offer them advice. And then everybody else will be like, yeah, but what about this advice and this advice? It's like, relax. I'm just giving him advice on this one issue that he's working on overcoming right now. Of course, he still needs good money management. Of course, he still needs good position sizing and all of that. But if he can get in with 2 contracts, he can give himself an edge for staying in the trade. All right, well, at the moment, they're trying to bring in some buyers here at this support. Can they do it? It would appear no. Not yet. Okay, so if we break 54, I'll be looking for the market to push back up into like 4460 area and look for resistance there. So getting below this node on the cumulative, I'd want to see it come back up and find resistance there to look for continuation lower. So that'll be right at 4460, looking for resistance there. Mangala, why not use Bookmap? I've just never used Bookmap. It's not something I've ever looked at. But I don't see anything wrong with that. You can use any technical analysis tool that exists as long as you become a master at reading it. As long as you become really, really good at Bookmap, Bookmap is great. All right, well, we are getting some resistance here. Man, this market is really moving. First thing in the morning, gap and go, straight down. But next target to the downside is 44.48, 48.75. Trading Talkie, the book is full of spoofs. All that matters are executed trades. I also agree with that. All right, so we're looking for resistance here at 60. There definitely is that too. That they put a lot of spoofing on the books, specifically for the purpose of tricking people who watch level 2. So it's like choosing to use a signal that you know is bullshit half the time, intentionally. That is one nice thing about the market-generated information. The information that's in the charts, it cannot be wrong. This is what trade has already taken place. Just notice we got this low volume node up here. Needs some backfilling at 44.63. Obviously, for the moment, the momentum is still to the downside, though. But keeping that in mind for later, whenever we do find support. Donkey says, like yesterday in reverse. Yeah, and that would be max pain, too, for the market. Get everyone, the world's coming to an end bearish first thing in the morning. And then head the other way. Seven-mile reach, NQ down 2% so far with ES down 1.4. They're definitely moving in sync. Pirate traders, would you be surprised if we reverse to opening? No. I would be surprised if we reversed all the way to a gap fill. All right, so now we're looking for resistance in this node we're currently pushing up into, 44.66. They are starting to recover the ticks, though, so let's see if they can keep them above the zero line. I don't think they can. Phoenix. If anyone else talks shit about my girl Dom, there's going to be Will Smith action. Keep my order flow out your mouth. Hustler forever. Think I'm going to take my little 7 points and run, laugh out loud? I don't know, man. I know it feels really crazy and volatile right now, but if we do get a trend day down, it can be an easy day to trade. To just trust one time framing. I mean, you don't get a better setup for a trend day than a spike and a gap and go back to back. The only sort of counter argument is just how big the range is that we've already done. But momentum-wise, man, this could set you up for continuation lower. Donkey Europe super bearish day. DAX like 3%. I don't ever look at the DAX. I bet it moves a lot like the ES. Oh no, it's much less sporadic than the ES. Man, this market spends a lot of time balancing, doesn't it? I mean, they just broke out. Like in December of 20, they broke out of like a 5-year balancing range, and now they're dipping back in. Sajamans. Bitcoin's fallen too. Bitcoin back at 44. Okay, so once again, we're testing this resistance. They're trying so hard to get those ticks above the zero line. They're trying to bring in more buyers than sellers. Can they do it? All right, well, that resistance seems to be holding for the moment. Those ticks couldn't stay above that zero line. That is a little bit bearish to see. But like with all resistance, the more times they poke at it, the weaker and weaker it'll get. But for now, it's holding, which is bearish. CCT, good morning. Missed out on so much. Didn't even manage to trade anything yet. Damn. Again, I would just say don't worry about it, guys. The day is very young. If it's going to be a bearish trend to the downside, there'll be lots of money to be made. Just sticking with that one time framing. And I would say when we print the C period, if we're able to get the C period above the B period high, I would pretty much just consider that cessation, although it isn't technically cessation. I would pretty much consider that cessation, but I would be cautious selling for rotation back down to the POC if we get above the opening price. So essentially, if the C period pushes above the B when we get there, doesn't look like it will because the momentum is to the downside. But if it did, I would be willing to trade it like rotation in here. But if we get back above the opening price, then we could be looking at the gap fill. So I'd be more cautious there. But of course, that is all hypothetical, waiting for cessation of one time framing first. Or I would say waiting for the end of the momentum. Hustle Forever seems like the ES starts crawling after the first hour. That's because it does. The first hour and the last hour of the day have the most volatility generally because they have the most volume. You know, that's where people are positioning themselves for whatever move they think is going to happen or taking profits for whatever move has happened. So yeah, you tend to get the most volatility at the beginning and the end of the day. And it's pretty normal for it to get real quiet in the afternoon. All right, so we've got some single prints we left behind here in the B period. That increases the odds slightly that the market needs to backfill those single prints. But we will look for resistance at 44.64 when we get there for continuation to the downside. If you're not going to join us on the Brigade private stream, as I said, if the C period gets above the B period high, so if we can get above 44.6775 now, I would treat that like rotation, but be cautious above the opening price, 44.77, that we could be looking for a gap fill. And if we continue lower, if we get the C period below the low of the day right now, 44.54, then we would look for continuation to the downside as the trend down would remain intact. And the next support I see to the downside is 44.50. But if you're not a member of the brigade, today's a great day to join. You can hang out with us for the rest of the day. It's only $10 for an entire month. There's a link in the description. We'd love to have you. As for me, that is it, and I shall say goodbye. Happy trading, everyone. See you tomorrow morning.